transformational leadership or distributed leadership is not understood at all. It means that the tradition of administration in France is based with some dysfunction within the hierarchy, in the transmission of information from the top to the bottom, in the coordination of action between different departments of agencies and the support of practitioners. And we could say that what is true for health is also true for education. In France, principals are civil servants employed by the states, and it is the same for inspectors who represent an important professional body. Statuses and rules are very different between primary education and secondary education. And the workforce is a national group with strong trade unions, which is a characteristic of the French education system. Nevertheless, for several decades now, we can observe a modernization of the French education system, which has been undertaken in the context of Europeanization. And France has adopted a basic skill policy like other European countries. And the Ministry of Education is currently developing a soft accountability system through national assessment. And this national assessment will be soon complemented by a national school self-evaluation framework. For several years, a national policy has been implemented to improve school climate and to reduce student dropouts. But the vision and values shared by French principals and inspectors are strongly inspired by Republican ideas. Neutrality of the state or secularism, free education, but also equality for all and social justice. This explains why much attention has been paid to the national curriculum as a guarantee of the egalitarian transmission of knowledge and citizenship. I will speak now about recent developments in educational policy. We can observe a policy for reducing class size in priority education areas, the implementation of a national strategy for numeracy and literacy, the development of an ambitious policy to implement digital technologies, and the current reform of teacher training, but also a reform about teachers' missions and statuses, which with undergoing discussions between the Minister of Education and trade unions. This discussion will start next October. The situation of executives is also changing. The word management appears, at least in discourses, and more in the training of executives. Also the word leadership. We've got a National Institute for the Training of Executives, which is largely led by the Ministry of Education. And this National Institute is transforming its professional standards on training contents to include more reflections on school improvement, team leadership, assessment of learning, and school networking. However, we can observe still a big gap, a big implementation gap between theory and practice. School organization has not yet changed much, despite the reform of the baccalaureate in upper secondary education. In this upper secondary education, students can choose options and be continuously assessed during the school year and not only at the end of the school year. However, the coordination between pedagogical teams is still limited. and the school management remains bureaucratic or post-bureaucratic. So France is meeting big challenges in terms of leadership practices. Among them, to make principals more pedagogical leaders in their schools and more involved in the teaching and learning core, because principals have to share their skills with inspectors, and it does not facilitate their mutual relationship. Another challenge is to ensure that inspectors are less prescriptive but more supportive of teachers, that these inspectors focus on leading, on coordinating teaching teams, and not just inspecting teachers in the classroom. A third challenge is to train executives in the management of change and school improvement by developing support functions and more innovation and creativity at the bottom. And at least the last challenge is to institutionalize assessment and evaluation as a regular practice for principals and teachers, with the possibility for principals and teachers to be better coached and better trained on leadership issues. Finally, something remains unknown. At the moment, the government is speaking about the third step of decentralization for the education system. At the same time, a new national planning committee will be set up. So we don't know if we move to more decentralization or to more centralization, at least in education. Until now, local authorities were responsible only for the building and equipment of schools, which a heavy burden with the development of digital technologies. The main issue which is discussed by policymakers at the moment is to develop human resource management at local level, but no one knows whether this new management will, on how this new management will be implemented at local level under the responsibility of the state or under the responsibility or shared responsibility with local authorities in the selection and recruitment of teachers and even principals. Thank you.